Hey guys, Jonah here, back again for an advent calendar review, and we are up to day 15, which is down here. Let us see what we can get. Keep struggling to get these out. I don't know. Wow. I remember saying this before, but the holes, if they can make the box maybe 1% bigger, it'd be much easier to get the beers out, and it would destroy the box less. Or they could use a thicker cardboard. I mean, the cardboard's quite thick, but it's very, very flimsy. Okay, what have we got here? Oh, we've got a beer called Gator, Henry the Gator, apparently. I guess that's the Gator there, and it's a hazy pale at 3.8%, and it's by Harrogate Brewing, who I think I've had some beers from them in the past, which is pretty cool. A hazy dry hop pale ale with notes of tangerine, grapefruit, mango, and pineapple. Malts, varied malts, and Mosaic hops. Okay. With a hint of orange marmalade. Well, that implies that there's something else in there. I'd say Amarillo, but these days could be something else. Who knows? Yeah, interesting. Trying to find out what else is in there. Hops, yeast, barley. No oats and no wheat, apparently. So that's good. Hazy pale. We had a very similar beer yesterday. Apart from that one was cool. That was a pale ale, not hazy. And I like that one quite a lot, to be honest. Right, let us see what we have got. Okay, so it's supposed to be hazy, but not very hazy. That's cool. I bet you there's some haziness left in the bottom. For a hazy beer, that is surprisingly clear. You can definitely see me through there. Interesting. Finger and a half, fluffy head. Look at the bubbles on there. I don't know if it'll focus on there, but it's lovely, lovely, big bubbles. Okay, weirdly, we've got a bit of that detergenty stuff in there. I really want to know what that is, because it's happening in so many beers, and basically the beers that I'm getting from Beer52, is there some sort of additive that they're putting in the beers, giving that kind of detergenty thing? It might be something, maybe for an extended shelf life or something like that. Pardon me. I'm used to drinking cask beer, especially in the local. As many of you know, I was there last night actually in the Royston, although other pubs are available down here. And the freshness that you get with cask beer, you do not get with canned beer. You don't get it. They put something in there. And I'm just wondering if that's what it is. Of course, they're not going to tell you. They should do on the label, but they're not. They're not telling you all the stuff that they put in the beer. Maybe it's the can itself. Anyway, as the head is dying down, I'm getting a nice orangey kind of citrusy type thing going on. Hopefully, some of that that detergenty stuff will evaporate with the head. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it's some sort of gas. Yeah, some people play around with gases. Obviously, nitrogen is one that they impart. Argon, I've heard of as well. Neutral gases to stop spoilage in liquids, essentially. So it could be something like that. Cheers and beers. This is day 15. We're reaching the last week. We're not quite there yet, but reaching the last week. Okay, interesting. So, whereas I was definitely getting citrus orangey kind of thing, I'm definitely getting a more zestiness here. Grapefruit, like it said on the can, that's a good shout. A definite zestiness there. Is it? Yeah, is it Mosaic? I wouldn't say that it's synonymous with Mosaic. That's more of a tropical kind of fruity. I know. Grapefruit is kind of a tropical fruit, but that's not usually what Mosaic hops gives. There's some other stuff in the background. Is it kind of like a marmalade-y taste? I mean, yeah, you do have zest in marmalade, so I guess that's where it's coming from. Um, it's interesting because on the nose I was just getting more orange, but on the mouth I was getting bitter, zesty kind of grapefruity notes, which is interesting. Neither of which, for me, come from Mosaic, so interesting. And unfortunately, that detergenty type thing is coming through. I'm actually beginning to wonder, is it, well, it's either two things. Is it a contract brewer that Beer52 are using has some sort of issue with quality control, and is imparting these kind of things into their beers? That would not surprise me at all. Or is it a process that modern brewers are doing because they know they're going to be canning, for example? Um, it's weird. When I started homebrewing like 15 years ago ish, um, there was a thing called homebrew twang, which people kind of talked about, and it was a metallic kind of taste, pardon me, flavour that people got from using malts from cans, concentrated malts, as opposed to using fresh malts, essentially creating your own mash, which people don't seem to do, I guess, these days. I mean, big breweries do. Right, let's have a look. I was really expecting there to be a dump of something from the bottom of this can, which I have got before, but in this case, not at all. Look at that. I mean, there is a haze there, but it is not what I would call a hazy beer by any metric, or at least not a beer that had oats in, for example. You can taste that in the beer because there's no kind of creaminess. This is very kind of um, malt forward, I guess, as opposed to the actual full-on hazies are more oat or wheat forward. I am perfectly willing to believe that there is no wheat or oats in here. Really interesting. Cheers. Let's finish this off. Yeah, I can see what they've tried to do here. That's perfectly okay. I would prefer yesterday's beer that didn't say it was a hazy and was jet clear. This one, a tiny touch of haze, but I would not call this a hazy beer. And I don't think the balance is there. They haven't, yeah, they haven't balanced the zestiness of the hops against the malt bill in here. It's definitely a hoppy one, a zesty one. If you like that, if you like a hoppy pale ale that's quite weak, I would say at 3.8. Anything under 4% is just nuts, really, in my opinion. However, I spoke to someone yesterday. I was at a farmer's market over in Faversham, the home of Shepherd Neame, and I actually went into their brewery just to see what was on offer. They did have a little bit of a sale there, but it wasn't anything that I was interested in. And their bar, which if you can get into, is fabulous. They had a private function on, so unfortunately I couldn't wangle my way in. But yeah, at that brewery, I was talking to a guy that makes cider, and he basically said, because I'd noticed that the Faversham cider, or Kent cider, sometimes they call themselves, had dropped in alcohol ABV to 4%. So literally all of his ciders were down to 4%, apart from some single apple variety ciders. And he said the customs and excise, the HMRC, yeah, basically have changed the tax. And I don't know exactly when this happened, but I would say in the last year or so. I'm hoping it didn't happen in the budget. I mean, it might have done. But what's happened is anything that contains fruit or a fruit flavored drink. I know apples are a fruit. Someone with far more brains than me told me apples are fruits, and I was like, oh yeah, they are actually. But basically, any kind of flavored thing, so say a strawberry cider or a raspberry cider or something like that, are not cider. They're taxed as fruit wine, I believe. And the tax you pay on wine is much higher than you pay on cider. So basically, he's had to reduce the ABV to drop it over one of the tax limits, which I guess is maybe 4.1. I haven't actually looked it up. I'm assuming it's very close to 4, but just over, to put you into a different tax bracket. And this guy was basically saying a lot of fruit products are going to suffer this year because they're going to have to pay a huge amount more tax. And guess what? They're going to pass that over to the consumer. So, where I was going, this beer is at 3.8%. So, I'm fully noting that there's going to be a lot of pale ales that are around 3.8, 4% to put them into a lower tax bracket. But are they actually passing on the savings to you, the consumer? We'll have to keep an eye on this over the next year. But very, very interesting times. Personally, I would be more willing to pay a little bit more for a stronger beer. And I would say that makers of alcoholic drinks, if they would like to see people buy their drinks, they'll have to go with what the consumer wants, irrespective of how much tax they have to pay. I did note that the cider that he was selling was reasonably expensive. So, well, you know, he was at a trade event, a farmer's market, I should say. So I don't know. Are the pitches on farmers markets more expensive now? I guess they are. But yeah, he was charging a little bit too much. But anyway, tis by the by. I really do like the cider, so I think I'm going to have to cough up and pay it, or like I do, pop down to the Royston, or you know, there are lots of micro pubs on the island that I live on, and their ciders are always reasonably cheap at a very strong alcohol content. Hey, it is what it is. I've waxed lyrical a bit longer than perhaps I should have done on the Advent beer review, but I'm going to see you tomorrow for day number 16. And until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, drink some beer because it makes you smarter in the run up to Christmas.